focus. Ideate, innovate, enable. Forbes India and ServiceNow present the COO Collective.
Hello and welcome to the COO Collective, an exclusive thought leadership series brought to you by Forbes India in association with ServiceNow. I'm your host, Parumita Chatterjee. And as part of our series, we've been focusing on various aspects of the customer experience journey. And today on the show, our theme of discussion is going to focus on what many call the secret weapon, which is operational excellence. Indeed, how can you as a company really reap the benefits of optimizing your customer experience journey by streamlining and optimizing your processes, which are all of there at the back end? And hence, we want to find out a little bit more about operational excellence and its connection and how it can deliver returns as far as your customer experience journey is concerned. And to do just that, we've got an amazing lineup of panelists. Let me introduce them to you on the show today, starting with Viren Shetty, who's the COO and Vice Chairman at Narayana Health. Karthik Rajgopal, COO at Manipal Health Enterprises. Rubal Sahni, Regional Director, ServiceNow. Krishna Prasad, Vice President Operations, Shugana Foods Private Limited. And Dr. Sundar Narasimhan, SVP Operations and Supply Chain Professional at Newland Laboratories. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. And as I said, we've been talking a lot about customer experience, so it makes sense. Rubal has been our partner in doing just that. So Rubal, let me start with you. Today, our theme of discussion and focus is really on understanding how operational excellence can deliver returns for companies who want to use customer experience as their competitive advantage. Make that connection for us.
We all know that omni-channel experience for all the customers and for their experience is very important. But if you don't have streamlined operations, right from inception till the last mile, that omni-channel experience cannot be consistent, right? So there is a need for integrating the entire operations onto one platform so that there is data which is available to all the doers, as part of the operation, so that they can bring and elevate the CX experience for all the customers.
Indeed, and that's very interesting because for most companies and many of us actually, when we think about the CX experience, we think about outside in, what are my external touch points? But here today, we're talking about inside out, so to speak, which is how can I improve my internal processes to really deliver on those returns? So Viren Shetty, let me ask you first about, for Narayana Health, I mean, affordable healthcare is clearly your mantra, which you're really trying to promote. How has it been for you in terms of operational excellence? How have you gone about improving those processes to really help you connect better with the customer?
See, in a country like India, where a lot of the inefficiencies of the systems cannot be borne by patients, it's imperative for organizations to look to cut costs and inefficiencies wherever possible. All of this accelerated during the pandemic because we had a situation where our patients couldn't reach us, our doctors were unable to get to work, we would face massive surge of demand for people to visit, for us to see them online. And all of that meant we had to radically rethink the role that operational excellence plays, the role that we would expect from software, and how hospitals need to start addressing these things. So what has happened in our organization is that would defocus a lot in looking at just adding more beds, getting more doctors, just looking to have a massive footprint, and a lot more focus for our organization in terms of looking at the beds that we already have, the doctors that we already have, the platforms and the websites and the WhatsApp that we already have, and seeing how that can be utilized to reach out to a much larger number of people. So by increasing the utilization, for us, it means that we can get a lot more patients coming into the same infrastructure and thus reducing the cost for that.
Right, and some great examples that you've shared there. So let me come to the other healthcare provider, which is the Manipal Group, and Karthik is here with us. So Karthik, how do you take that forward for you as a group and looking at the complexities of your operations? You've spoken a lot, in fact, many of your team members, about how data strategy is really important, of really collating all of that data together to bring about that kind of optimum experience. How did you address this whole issue of operational excellence connecting to CX?
When the patient is in the hospital, we try to go ahead and provide the touch and feel to the extent possible. And when they're away from the hospital, and that's where we've actually gone ahead and integrated significant technology in. One is, we've got an app which has cut out a whole lot of dependency of the patients on our system. Earlier, they used to call for appointments, they used to call for lab reports, etc. So that is something that we've actually gone ahead and done. Whilst inside the hospital, we've something, in healthcare called the modified early warning scores, where in step-down ICUs and less serious parts of the hospital, we do have the systems integrated so that they can actually go ahead and give you those, early warning scores by which we can actually transfer patients quite easily to the ICUs. And post-hospitalization, we've actually had a tie-up with Google, and connected devices is something that is, getting a significant traction in healthcare. So post-operatively, when you actually go ahead and look at it, these connected devices have significantly enhanced patient discipline, both towards medication, where we've actually seen a 43% increase in medication discipline actually going up, and about roughly 80 to 83% of the people actually calling back the hospital when they are in some form of pain or the other, where the data is actually relayed. And so it's easier for us to actually go ahead and understand. So to reiterate, touch and feel when the patient is inside the system, whilst we are trying to go ahead and really improve the clinical delivery, robots, etc., are now commonplace in hospitals. But pre-hospitalization and post-hospitalization, something that we'd like to go ahead and focus as far as technology is concerned.
Right. So you have leveraged that use of technology. So very interesting. We heard from two, B2C healthcare providers, major brands, and let's now turn to Shuguna. Which is, it's got its, we all know about Shuguna eggs, and actually you're much more in terms of eggs and chickens and the poultry side of the business. You've been pioneers, and you've been talking about digital transformation for quite a while. Now, in your supply chain heavy sort of logistical side of the business, operational excellence would play a very large role.
Absolutely, Varnita. The biggest challenge that we face in chicken business is fresh chilled chicken business is the timely supply. So we have various customers located in various cities, wherein the average distance that the chicken travels is about 300 to 350 kilometers every day to deliver. The biggest challenge is everybody wants a delivery between 7 and 11 a.m. because that's how their business is built on. So the biggest challenge is it's a cold chain supply. It has to be supplied at 0 to 4 degrees Celsius to the customer. And as per FSSA norms, it is just slaughter plus 3 days is the shelf life of the product. So when I joined this organization about 22 months ago, this is the biggest challenge I find. So how do I bill around 400 to 500 customers from each of my plant and ensure that their demand is catered on time? So therefore, we just recently introduced a system and a technology called day-1 demand capturing system. So through various technology options we will, including WhatsApp bot, we will capture the demand 1 day in advance. For example, if the customer wants a delivery on Wednesday morning, we capture that demand on Monday. So Monday onwards, the backend planning starts. How many birds need to be ordered? How many birds need to be slaughtered? How many birds need to be further processed? How many SKUs to be made? How many deboning to be done, etc., etc., which was very challenging for us earlier before we introduced this technology in the system. Fantastic
Example, and clearly explaining to us how technology has helped ease, some of those bottlenecks. What about for you at Newland Laboratories? What's been the biggest pain point, and how have you eased it?
See, primarily, CX is the biggest investment a company can make, for the long term, and the pandemic probably, brought it into a sharper focus, and then, from there. Post-pandemic, now we have customers coming in droves, and there's a lot happening as we speak. So the most important thing that we have realized in Newland is that, as the customers keep coming, both because of the China factor and also because of other...
And yours is a B2B side of the business.
B2B, yeah, it's B2B side of the business. So post this, we realized that, it's very important for us to really digitalize, and a lot is, we are doing a lot in that direction. But, even before that, what I would like to say is among the values and beliefs that we have, customer centricity is right on top. And we are now, our digitalization journey has started in, I can say, in a localized manner. And we have realized that probably, we need to really move it to the next level where, we are able to do an umbrella operation where, we get everything and then put customer in the focus.
I think some fantastic points there. You just mentioned a very localized approach, and let me bring in Rubal here because it's said that Indian companies all evolve in a very unique manner, very different perhaps from their global counterparts. And this kind of, you're hearing from potential customers here, and they all want a very personalized, localized solution perhaps to address some of their operational bottlenecks, which could improve their CX journey. How can technology be an enabler, and how should they avoid some of the pitfalls of adopting some of those cookie cutter approaches as far as technology is concerned?
We used to hear that technology is the enabler of business, but in today's era and where we are going in next 5 to 10 years, technology is the business, not just the enabler. And and we talk about technical debt, we talk about management debt, right? And there is where for all the customers which we have been working in the domestic market or globally, they have realized the potential of having a platform which is not just to deliver a particular kind of a use case. If it is open, if it is flexible, if it is composable in nature, like building blocks. So if today I am delivering 2 use cases, tomorrow because of a global macroeconomic situation, because of another pandemic, if I have to pivot a business model, I should be able to do it immediately without losing a lot of time. So the focus is on building that kind of architecture. To give you an example here, like NHS, when they had to vaccinate the entire citizens, they use ServiceNow platform to roll out an application to register and also manage the downstream activity of operations end to end and vaccinate those people. So there were more than 5 million population which got vaccinated in a record time, and that all happened because of technology, which was not just the enabler, but it was basically helping the entire downstream, the supply chain to make it happen.
Right, very interesting. So you're saying it's not a question of global or local. It's really about, what's the technology which is available in terms of its ability to be agile and flexible, scale up and or down, depending on the needs of the organization. Viren, how do you respond to this? Because, for instance, for your group, you're also working very closely with a lot of the government, whether it's state or central government schemes. One of them is the Ayushman Bharat Health Account, for instance. How much of a challenge is it when we talk about, it's very easy to talk about data utilization, data strategy, but it's a mammoth task when it comes to healthcare.
Yeah. We're not at the point where anyone is going to question whether or not we require digitization, whether there should be universal ID for all the patients, whether all the patient information should be longitudinally accessible to them. No one argues against that. I think the gap comes between the promise that is spun out by this is the best application of technology and expecting that to magically transform your business overnight. And obviously, a lot of the techno-evangelists will spin up a glorious future because otherwise, how else does one get excited about paying for CX software? It's actually a really hard grind sort of work. But it does have a lot of promise. It can deliver a huge amount of benefit. It will allow us to be able to offer healthcare to the poorest people at a price they can afford. But it is a lot of work. It requires doctors, technologists, engineers, administrators to all work together and look at all the things that are working the way they are right now, which is people physically having to visit a hospital and saying that, okay, in this future, maybe 9 out of 10 things you do need not happen in this one location. It may be distributed. It may be that you can use past data. It may be that different sorts of people have to do it. And now if you're building an ecosystem, how do we all work together and form our own part in this?
On that note, let's take a short break. You're watching the COO Collective, where today we are focusing on operational excellence. Stay with us.
Forbes India and ServiceNow present the COO Collective. Forbes India and ServiceNow present the COO Collective.
Welcome back to the COO Collective, where we are in conversation about how operational excellence can be the secret weapon for your company to deliver on a superior customer experience. Let's continue with our conversation. Kartik, let me come to you here because the employee experience part of it when you're talking about operational experience. And was that to you a key focus area, which is improving, reskilling your employees and really bringing them on board and empowering them with some of these data insights and analytics to help resolve some of those customer solutions?
Absolutely, Parnita. I think we kind of use data to a very, very large extent. And I think healthcare is living two different eras. One, a pre-COVID era, and then, COVID and the post-COVID era, where I think the technology adoption has significantly gone up. So to that extent, trying to get the 23 odd hospitals that we kind of manage to go ahead and understand the power behind technology. And I think there is no doubt, as both Rubal and Viren said, the impact of technology is going to be significantly large. But the acceptance of that amongst employees at an enterprise level, and to the extent that everybody understands its potential and its fullest meaning, is something that's very, very
you've been
important.
getting a whole bunch of brands under your umbrella. Has that been especially a challenge?
See, I mean, obviously when you grow through acquisitions, a cultural integration is something which precedes, anything else. But from a technology perspective, we're trying to go ahead and get, a one Manipal approach, which probably happens in a staggered manner. But the message from the leadership clearly has been that, look, technology is here to stay, and everybody will need to actually go ahead and look at that. So
and align all those processes together.
Absolutely, both external and internal, be it from the business perspective as well as from a service excellence perspective. The entire process alignment through infusion of additional technology, something which is a given today in the Manipal system.
So technology is a given. Dr. Narasimhan, for a B2B player such as yourself, where you're catering to a lot of international markets and customers, and you have to deal with compliance as well. What are those key aspects of your operations that you've been addressing?
See, primarily for the compliance part, we have chosen a very good platform, very good digitization platform. I can say the overall effort is to go paperless, is to go live, and to go online, so that the traditional ways of auditing, we go through a lot of audits. As I told you, I think every third day there is an audit either by a medical authority or by a client. So these audits call for a lot of paperwork. So what we are doing is we just digitize that platform, and we are just on the verge of validating it. The moment we validate, then any medical authority walks into the company, they audit on the system. So this is one aspect that's very critical for us. In the area where I work, for example, some of the supply chain processes, post the digitization, we have a completely paperless office. So once I can see a situation maybe 1 year down the line where, starting from, let us say, the client RFP, when he sends the RFP or the RFQ, all the way to the delivery, the processes are streamlined. And then, we are able to give the full visibility to the customer and be able to, kind of handhold him to a great level of satisfaction.
I think great point you brought in about visibility, because whether your customer is in the B2B space, Rubal, or in the B2C space, he or she wants transparency. And especially if there is a dispute or if there is a problem involved. And that's where would you find that a lot of brands fall short, particularly perhaps here in India, because they are not able to resolve some of those issues successfully because the data is residing in silos, and hence we come back to this whole issue of, operationally integrating those various aspects to come up with a common resolution.
Definitely, and we all see it in our personal life, right? You are exploring a product online, and then you call a customer care, and then a customer care executive doesn't have a clue about what you were searching online. And then if you walk into a store after doing your due diligence and research online or with a chatbot, and you walk into the store and the store manager doesn't have a clue, who's walking in and what they want to buy. And there is where, it's not just the front end. You made a very important point, about not just the front end experience of the customer. In ServiceNow, we believe, and that's how we also deliver, customer experience to our customers. It's the entire organization's duty, the entire enterprise duty to ensure that customer experience is elevated. And that is what we deliver.
Is that the dream, Viren, that all of it is available? You are in a very regulated, closely watched industry as well. Security of that data is also very important. I mean, what do you prioritize in this sort of scenario? And most importantly, I mean, now that, for instance, you are talking about affordable healthcare, you also need to see how much all of these investments cost and whether they're really delivering those kind of returns.
Thing. So if we buy a medical equipment or we set up a new wing, it's always easy to say, look, these many patients, this much per patient, and create a very good calculation on that. But anything on the technology side. So we're rolling out a very large and expensive CRM solution, and we are spending a huge amount of money on our back-end technology. And it always becomes a question of, are we seeing the value of what we're spending? But let me put it this way. There's not a single traditional business today that is not being disrupted by startups at this point, who are maybe losing a lot of money, maybe they're killing a lot of patients, maybe they're selling a lot of substandard products online. Irrelevant, because they understand what customers want much better than anyone in a traditional business has. Because for us, we've been complacent, we've been lazy. We're so used to people coming to us and adhering to the way in which we want them to shop or the way in which we want them to see patients that we forget that maybe they want to sit at home and not have to go anywhere. Maybe
but
they
isn't
want
healthcare tied a lot with trust and the value of the brand and the legacy of the brand?
Absolutely. But yet, after all of that, there is one startup out there that does 5,000 general surgical procedures every month, which is astonishing for a no-brand institution that just operates entirely on app and does it in some very shady locations, but they tapped into what the customer wants, which is convenience, completely sorted out for them, paying online, and having that whole thing managed for them.
And I think that's the goal for all the organizations that we've heard from today. So fascinating discussion. We've heard from the healthcare behemoths. We've heard from one of the largest poultry manufacturers in Asia and in the world, as well as from Newland Laboratories, which is clearly charting its own story in the API space. So operational excellence is one of the cornerstones, and companies need to continue to focus on that to really deliver on the kind of customer experience that you and I have come to expect, as well as, of course, those in the B2B space as well. Thank you so much for joining us on this very special discussion on the COO Collective.
Forbes India and ServiceNow present the COO Collective.
Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.